Hello, I'm Dr. Scott Wadier.
And I'm Tommy Welling, and you're listening to the Fasting for Life podcast.
This podcast is about using fasting as a tool to regain your health, achieve ultimate wellness, and live the life you truly deserve.
Each episode is a short conversation on a single topic with immediate actionable steps. We cover everything from fat loss and health and wellness to the science of lifestyle design.
We started Fasting for Life because of how fasting has transformed our lives, and we hope to share the tools that we have learned along the way. Hey everyone, welcome to the Fasting for Life podcast. My name is Dr. Scott Wadier, and I'm here as always with my good friend and colleague, Tommy Welling. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Hey Scott, how are you?
Doing fantastic, my friend. Excited for today's episode where we are going to dive into all things fasting. We're going to talk about the transformative power of fasting for health and wellness. But most importantly, we're going to do a deep dive into big picture that I feel is very important for most of our listeners. If you're new, welcome. If you're an old school Fasting for Life OG, welcome as well. But really, we're going to look at how to leverage fasting to shed 20 pounds of fat and achieve lasting results. So it's going to be like our top 20 list or so, maybe 15, maybe 30, depending on how boisterous and, energy filled we are today. We reserve the right to ebb or flow, go up or down, right? Depending on the conversation. But really our top 15 to 20 things that we can do to leverage your fasting efforts, right, Tommy?
Yeah, because it can be like if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. So it can be helpful to have some prioritization going in, and then also knowing that we might be coming to fasting with some old dieting baggage. Sometimes there's some dieting mentality, some old habits that can follow with us, and as we all know, old habits can die hard. So as we want to be thinking about fasting in the right way. Regardless of if you're on a fat loss phase or a maintenance phase in your fasting journey. But either way, it's good to know where we want to focus so we can, maintain good mindset and good results, throughout the process, right?
Yeah, and here's the thing. So if you're new, this is a great episode to start with, right? Because these are going to be some of the foundational things. If you want to know more about our journey, head back, listen to episode 1. We tell our story, why we do what we do, why we go podcast episodes each and every week, why we have resources and coaching programs and challenges, etc. For you fasting OGs, right? For you lifestyle adapters. Oh my goodness, stumble over my words there. This is going to be a good reset too, to really hone in on a few of the things and a lot of the chatter that we hear inside of the messages and conversations and emails and challenges and inside of our coaching. These are the things that we hear in terms of the real life application. So when we're looking at this, we need to set achievable goals. We're going to define kind of what that looks like. And people are always like, well, how much weight do you want to lose? So we're just going to set it at like 20 pounds, right?
Okay. Yeah.
We're going to set it at 20 pounds. We're going to start there. And we're really going to try to unpack what it's going to look like to achieve long-term lasting results without undoing the fasting efforts that we've been putting in. Right, Tommy?
Yeah. We also want to have a mindset going in that we want to keep that weight off, right? And avoid the diet yo-yo, the roller coaster ride. So, it can be like once you understand, okay, this is how I can get a few pounds off. This is how I got the scale to finally start moving.
Momentum.
Okay, well, momentum. I want to keep it going in that direction. If I stop or if I pause, then I'd like to limit the regain, obviously, right? It sounds obvious, but at the same time, I don't know how many times I had regained a bunch of what I had lost or more than what I had lost.
Oh, yeah.
So if we can prevent
regain
that,
train.
Yeah, the regain train. I that's my least favorite ride in the whole amusement park, and I'd love to avoid it at any cost possible, right?
Yeah, so starting point. I think we landed the plane on that. So when we look at it, this came from a conversation that we saw with a thought-provoking Medium article, and it outlines a weight loss blueprint, right, to shed 20 pounds of fat. But we're going to take a little counterculture in our way and apply a fasting outside of the traditional dieting methods and the dieting roller coaster that Tommy just mentioned, right? The one ride you never want to be on. We're going to put our fasting for life spin on it. And we're going to offer those insights and strategies on how to incorporate fasting as your long-term weight loss and health solution. Okay. So as we unpack this, let's just get right into it because there are a bunch that we want to go through. And when we're looking at the different categories here, we want to be thinking about, all the way back. This one's probably late spring release, this episode. And, we're thinking back to all the way back to our New Year's resolutions, right? 3 out of the 4 New Year's resolutions are related. Don't worry, we're not going to talk about New Year's resolutions and have you write them down. Okay, not going to happen. Because here's the 3 out of the top 4 are related to health and fitness. Mm-hmm. But most of us are looking for a quick fix just with fasting. And there's some danger in that in terms of some of the results you can get quickly. And then we forget about that little whole okay, what do I do now? Has my lifestyle changed? That little sustainability component to, the realization that we live in a very quick fix, magic bullet weight loss type world. And fasting is so much more than weight loss, but that's what a lot of people start with. So we're going to start with learning the art of fasting and using fasting in a fat loss phase, because people who typically diet roller coaster or fast roller coaster experience low energy, have been on the regain train, like Tommy said, are tired of not being able to achieve the end result, or if you do achieve it, not maintain it. Mm-hmm. And then the 6 out of 7 folks who lose the weight gain it back plus some. Or if you want to look at some other statistics at the 3-year mark, we're looking at 95% of people who have regained the weight that they've initially lost. And it's not about the weight loss. It's about the physiology and the health that comes with sustaining that weight loss, right?
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I think part of what we can bring into fasting is our big, hairy, audacious weight loss goals, And so if I, when I first came into fasting, there was about 65, 70, close to 70 pounds that I wanted to lose. But that can be an overwhelming goal. It can be daunting, and it can take so long to make big progress on that goal that it can almost be its own demotivating factor, because even if I'm absolutely crushing it and I'm starting to make big progress, or I've accumulated 10, 15, 30 pounds worth of progress there, it can still feel like, I'm still so far away from my goal, which is very problematic, to your mindset. So I love the first rule in here, or the first recommendation, which was taking 10% of your body weight, let's say. So if you're 200 pounds and you want to lose 30 pounds, you want to lose 40, just take 10%, just take 20, take this first 20 pounds. If you're 300 pounds, take the first 30 pounds, and then focus on that, because it's very doable, but it really kind of calibrates your, I don't want to call it a finish line, but like a big line in the sand.
I feel like it's your expectations, right?
Yes. Yeah, it calibrates your expectations. It really does, and that protects your mindset and your momentum as you're kind of going forward, regardless of how much you overall you want to get off long term.
So we're gonna say start slow, but then go fast with fasting, because fasting can really accelerate weight loss in the beginning, right? Absolutely. So we're gonna talk in a few of these points. So point 1 is take it slow. Set that percentage goal, right? Because we talk a lot about this inside of our challenges, where what's your forever number? Well, I got 100 pounds to lose. Okay, well, that big result, hairy, audacious result-based goal that lives off in the future in Peter Pan's Never Never Land, right? Like, that can undermine your progress when you focus on the result-based goal and not the action-based or day-to-day process-based goals.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about some of the nuance in that as we go through these other ones, because you're like, wow, I got all this weight and I'm only 4 pounds in. Goodness gracious, it's going to take forever, right? So this is also the concept.
When you should be celebrating the 4 pounds that you just took off, right? Like you're way better off than you were a few days or a couple of weeks ago.
Right, exactly. So we have these unmet expectations or unreasonable expectations, however you want to put it, right?
We're very impatient creatures,
Yeah, so it's like, okay, well, we want to, I did a 7-day fast, I lost 7 pounds, and then, well, you're going to put 6 of it back on if you didn't change anything, right? So,
sure, of course.
I also like thinking about this in terms of chunking. So for some of y'all out there that are listening, need to chunk your weight loss journey. You need to chunk your diabetes medication removal journey. You
Hmm.
need to chunk your pain and inflammation, pain medication decrease journey. Like you need to
Yeah.
chunk
Yeah.
it into digestible, discernible, momentum building, not momentum crushing, big, hairy,
Yeah.
audacious, future
Wow.
based, result based goals, right?
Great point. Yeah. What if your blood work is, if you have an extra 100 points on your triglycerides, let's say, or your HSCRP is up, or your fasting insulin is up, or like you said, your medication dosage, like it's not just on or off, not, oh, well, I'm still out of range. Yeah. But did you cut that amount that you were out of range? Did you cut it by 25% since the last time you had blood work 6 months ago? Like that's an opportunity to celebrate that huge win and continue what you've been doing right, rather than be frustrated in that moment because you're still not there.
Right, right. So that's number one. And we got a lot more to go. So we'll go through these. Number
Mhm.
two is track or count your calories, right? And we kind of agree with this and we kind of don't. If you are someone that requires tracking to hold yourself accountable, then do it. If you're someone that's been tracking and it hasn't been working, don't do it. It also sounds kind of similar to the scale, right, Tommy?
Yeah, where you can find some logic in, you value what you measure. So thinking, well, I should probably step on the scale pretty often then too, to measure what's going on. But at the same time, if you're coming into this with some old diet baggage and you've been weighing a lot and been frustrated a lot, and you find a mindset, a psychological detriment potentially to stepping on the scale at the beginning of the day that then affects future decisions, then we're going to want to zoom out from the
Yeah.
scale. Actually, we're going to want to do less of stepping on the scale, right? Not
Yep.
just the daily arbitrary. Now, I'm not saying take a focus off of your overall weight, but
Right.
going to once or twice a week, or maybe taking a week off of it, a little scale break might be
Taking a month
beneficial.
off, right? Like a
Sure.
deload week, right?
Hmm.
Take some time off. If you've been tracking and it's driving you crazy and you don't want to do it anymore, don't. Fasting can stack the deck in your favor when it
Hmm.
comes to this process. And then the big fluctuations, if you've got considerable weight to lose or the same 20 pounds over and over, you'll see
Hmm.
fluctuations with fasting that might be greater than with your eat less, move more caloric restriction journey. So it might mess with your head.
Hmm.
So it's really up to you to know, what do I pull this lever or do I not? Some people have gotten great results. They've lost 120 pounds in our challenge, in our coaching group. And
Hmm.
they're like, yeah, I still track a few days a week just to keep my eyes on the prize.
Yeah, keep it sharp.
I broke up with it for the longest time, but I do use it periodically,
Yeah.
right? Because I need to know, where am I at? My energy's been off. I'm kind of feeling weak in my workouts. My sleep's been terrible. Like, it gives me
Mm.
some data. But in the beginning, just make the decision. Get rid of the scale, get rid of the tracker, keep it, use it, put it in its little compartment, right?
Mm.
Here's one that I don't think you and I would shy away from or vary on very much is, in the beginning, limit your alcohol consumption,
Mm.
much like the carbohydrate consumption. If you want to gain momentum fast and stay on track and um, kind of have some overlap with this category in terms of sleep
Mm.
and cravings and hunger, right? Then limiting the alcohol is going to drastically increase your fat burning, because when you
Yeah.
ingest alcohol, it completely shuts that process down.
Mm.
And it also messes with your sleep, your mood, your energy levels. And it's pretty much just loaded almost as many equal calories as 1 gram of fat.
Mm.
It's 7 kilocalories of energy per gram of alcohol. So it's like
Mhm.
you're getting a calorie bomb, empty, air quotes, empty calories, not physiologically accurate, but it stops your fat burning process and causes your liver to just go into alcohol removal. It affects
Sure.
your sleep.
Yeah.
More bad food is typically eaten. Like my dad used to say when I was growing up, nothing happens great after 12, after midnight. So get home. That was my curfew.
Yeah.
Well, nothing great after 8 happens with food or alcohol, right?
Yeah.
And it's not
For
saying that you
sure.
can't have those things, but it just typically spirals and then makes the fasting the next day that much harder because your
Mhm.
cravings are up and your blood sugar is not as balanced
Absolutely.
and your sleep
And
suffers.
yeah, yeah, right. And then the at the same time, carbohydrates and alcohol, they are, if you're squarely in the calorie is a calorie is a calorie, or you've tracked, you've done calories in, calories out for a long time, then what you can be thinking is, well, alcohol is still just a calorie, right? And the same thing for
It fits
carbohydrate.
my macros.
Yeah, but the problem is alcohol and carbohydrates, especially for us who have a lot of weight to lose or have had insulin resistance for some period of time, or have measurable insulin resistance. The problem is that the body treats those calories differently and disproportionately. So even so, 100 calories of alcohol or carbohydrates not treated the same as 100 calories of fat or protein, and that's problematic
Yep.
because then I'm compounding the problem, and I'm making the process much harder. And then it's going to be harder to set my next fasting timer and stick to my next fast for sure too.
Yeah, and those two go hand in hand too, because you're going to have bigger blood sugar swings, more insulin, more
Hmm.
hyperreactive glycemia, where your blood sugar goes up and down. You're going to have more cravings, more mood
Yeah.
swings, more hangriness, right? So, not forever, just for now. Okay. As you're
Mhm.
chunking down, 20 pounds, fasting for 20 pounds of fat loss, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Just know
Um,
it's a big lever for sure.
yeah, absolutely. I love this next one that they said is drink water before each meal. So it's not
Mm.
just drink water, drink a gallon of water a day, but it's putting it into a process where you can, oh, I'm about to eat. Man, I need to drink some water. It's a reminder. It's like a catch all rather than just like you
Mhm.
dragging that jug of water around with you all day that you don't drink because you forget.
Yeah.
When
Or
you
you just
eat,
don't want
make
to.
or you just don't want to, right? This is a way to make sure you're at least checking. So another way we do this is in the morning when you wake up, drink water and
Mhm.
electrolytes or salt before you have your coffee. That's another way to put water into your daily subconscious habit, routine building, foundational fasting habit type lifestyle.
Mhm.
And it's just another way to like think, oh, before I do this, I got to do this.
So when you actually put more water, when you put some water before your meal, the other benefit that you get is it gives you more of the feeling of satiety.
Yep.
And so if you've ever used typical diet foods, they tend to be things like loaded salads and things like that. And one of the benefits of some of those foods is that you get more to do in a lower calorie environment, right? Like
Higher
there's low,
fiber.
yeah.
Yeah. More mass to it.
Yeah, yeah, right. And that can be especially helpful if you're doing one meal a day currently, like an OMAD type of
Right.
fasting, or just having that checkbox and that habit to do before you start your meal is one that helps you get your water in and also helps you feel fuller a little bit longer too, and not so much like man, I'm really just missing out on my meal opportunities. Like I'm not getting as much substance.
Yeah, absolutely. So talking about breaking your fast, right? So water is great. It's a natural appetite suppressant. It'll
Hmm.
lower your intake, right? It'll slow you down from just going ravenous into an OMAD meal, right? Or if you've done a longer fast, right? It'll help you slow that process down.
Hmm.
We also want to talk about, not drinking your calories. And also then another one would be fuel, like whole food choices, right? So we were just talking about this, the hedonic food scale. Rather than being like hot, like snacky, high fat, high caloric intake, like just sit down, plan your meal, prioritize protein, fiber, carbohydrates. Yes, put them at the end of the meal, but get more volume with whole
Hmm.
foods rather than those high caloric. If you look at a breakfast sandwich at a gas station versus a breakfast sandwich in your kitchen,
Mm.
right? One's a
Yeah.
calorie bomb of refined processed crap, and one's
Seed
actually
oils. Yeah.
like, yeah, real whole food. Um, that's going to keep you fuller longer. So that
Hmm.
that one really goes hand in hand with the idea of making sure that you're prioritizing protein or hitting that 0.7 grams of protein per body weight on your meal days, and making sure on the days that you do eat that you're putting protein first, because
Yeah.
protein pacing is not something that's common in the dieting society or the weight loss world.
Hmm.
It really needs to be the focus of what you put on your plate first.
Yeah. Protein doesn't happen by accident. And if you compare the macronutrients or the food labels between, let's say, an egg McMuffin versus a make it yourself in your own kitchen, you're going to feel so much better and have a much better macronutrient split and just get a lot more bang for your buck as far as um, satiety and nutrition for those calories that you're bringing in. And then it's going to make your next fast that much easier to complete as well. Because coming off of something that's restaurant made. It's more calorically dense. It has cheaper ingredients. The cravings and the hormonal signals that you get during your next fast after a meal like that, even if the calories are the same, that's much, much harder to compete with. And that makes the process that much more frustrating. And usually it tends to slow us down in a weight loss, in a fat loss phase too.
Yeah. So when we're looking at the categories related to food and protein, those are really the big ones that stick out, right? So
Hmm.
one more thing, or in regards to food, and then a couple of big picture things here when we're talking about fasting, and some rules that we have for long term sustainability, right? Because the idea is to lose the weight and keep it off, right? It's that second part of the equation. Just like the fasting's easy, it's the breaking of the fast, right?
Yeah.
So Tommy, you loved this one as a reformed gratuitous grazer. Um, is add friction to pick up snacks.
Hmm. Yeah. Don't make it so easy for yourself to grab one of those crunchy, salty, or sweet, calorically dense, foods that we typically find in the
Maybe they're
pantry.
not even calorically dense, but when you open it, you eat the whole bag.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. The density is
Well, that
in
become
is in
very
how
dense
many.
very quick.
Yeah. Yeah. How much can you put down, right? Like I bet you can't just eat one, right? Bet you can't
Annie's
eat just
Puffs, the
one.
big Costco size bag,
Yeah.
like we buy them for our kids for school to replace all the other stuff, right? And it's like they're not the greatest, but they're better.
Hmm.
But they're like air.
Yeah.
Like if I have one, I'm gonna have 400 because they're just like chewing air, and there's just
Yeah.
something about them because I have that salty, crunchy thing in my
Hmm.
past. Not I can have some, but I need to put them in a little baggie and walk out.
Yeah.
Right? I can't be so that bag needs to stay out of sight, out of mind.
Right. Exactly. And that can be especially tricky if you have little ones in the house and things like that. So doing little things like buying less of them when you go to the grocery store, finding an alternative, making some at home if you have an ability to
Yep.
use a food swap. But then also put some replacements. Like in my pantry, I specifically grab certain beef sticks and I put them next to the other stuff that looks so good that I'll feel better. It will help fuel me
Yep.
for my next fast better and help me crave the other stuff less.
Yep.
Put a good alternative that you want close by, and you'll see your natural inclination, kind of shift. Maybe not all the time, but
Right.
even small shifts are very beneficial when you compound it over time.
It leads directly into this next one, which is the 80-20 rule, right? So we
Mm,
talk about the 80-20 rule all the time. Perfectionism, you're just
yeah.
avoiding it. Like challenge your story, let it
Mm,
go. Like Elsa, let it go, right? Like just let it go. 80-20. Okay. It allows you for some wiggle room. It allows you for some slippage. It allows you to not have to have these rigid times where life doesn't allow you to do it, or you
mhm,
have an opportunity with an old girlfriend or a business lunch or something that pops up, right? So
mhm,
this is 30 days out of the month would be 6 days where you're not on, where you're off, right?
mhm,
But if we break it up into a daily routine, then it's a little bit more digestible. But the 80-20 rule is going to add this sustainability piece where you're not constantly restricting and omitting yourself through the process,
mm, yeah.
which allows you to have some of that breathing room, which is going to make it much, much more sustainable and adaptable as a lifestyle.
This is definitely connected to rule number one as well, which was that chunk it smart with start with a smaller
Start
goal, like
slow. Yeah.
10%. Because that's kind of the anti-perfectionism of the overall goal. Well, this 80-20 rule is kind of the anti-perfectionism for the day-to-day and the month-to-month as
Or
well. Like,
this, I'm never going to eat carbs again. I'm never going to
mm,
drink again. I'm never going to have pizza again. I'm never say never, right? Cliche for a reason. We teach my kids this, right?
yeah,
Hurts, stings
80-20.
a little, right?
80-20. I know 80-20 is it can feel tough, especially if you never liked B's growing up.
Yeah,
You're like,
right.
no, I want the A+. I want 100 on the test. But
Yeah,
80
you are
eighty
not
twenty,
speaking to that guy on this side. Like, yeah,
right.
whatever.
But
C's get degrees. Let's go.
80-20 is not a way to lower the bar for yourself, but it's more of a way to not ever feel like you really have to keep like get things moving again. Like you've just been, you got off track for a few days. it didn't mean that you ditched your fasting lifestyle because it was all or
Yeah.
nothing. It means, okay, well, life happens. Great. What's
Yep.
happening right now? Do I have my fasting timer set right now today,
Yep.
or can I set it for tomorrow? Because let's make it a short trip to be right back on track. That's what I love about the 80-20 rule.
It's almost like we planned this because this goes directly into the next one,
Mm,
which is 80% or 8 out of 10 on a scale of 1 to 10 of you getting results in a fasting and fat loss journey is down to the fasting timer and the food choices when you break your fast.
yep.
It's all in that. It's all right there. It's like, oh, you can't out exercise a bad diet.
Yeah.
The trouble with fasting in the beginning is you can out fast bad food choices,
Yes.
but it eventually it catches up with you.
Right. Yeah. Especially like as some of the weight comes off, as we call it slippage sometimes,
Right.
right? Where like there's some fasting slippage. Maybe an OMAD starts to slip into a window, or a 2 hour or 4 hour window becomes 6 or becomes 8.
It becomes a
It's like,
week.
yeah, things start to slide, and that can be obviously very, very problematic. But if we can realize that, especially in the beginning, results will happen faster in the beginning, coming off of your highest weight, or whenever you're newest to fasting. That's when the scale will move the quickest. But
Yep.
then things definitely slow down. But also food choices matter more and more because as weight comes off, you become a smaller version of yourself. Your caloric needs are lower, and the difference between seeing a positive result versus a negative one on the scale become like tighter and tighter. Basically, the margins start getting slimmer and slimmer as you get slimmer.
Yep.
So that can be, if we don't understand that going in, that can set us up for bad habits, and we can almost learn bad habits in the beginning of fasting when we're getting good results but making poor food choices. Though that's not always going to be an equation for success as we get further into this.
Yep. Absolutely. And if you can check the show notes for the list of these; they'll be there for you. How we're kind of going through them.
Mm,
And then a couple things in that. Let's say if 8 out of 10 of your results comes from your fasting efforts, your consistency, the 80-20 rule, and then your food choices, right?
mm,
Really the mindset and the movement are the last two. So I'm going to combine these. In the beginning, you don't necessarily have to focus too much on strength training or weight training, especially if you've got a considerable amount of weight to lose. We want to get the scale moving and get you feeling better first
mm,
and foremost. So this is where the walking component comes into play. It is so incredibly powerful. Cardio for fat loss, terrible. Cardio for cardiovascular health, incredible.
mm.
Right?
Yeah.
Incredible. So walking is such a powerful tool, especially in the beginning, where you can ease into it, right? So you're going to start slow, like we talked about with principle number 1.
Mm,
So you're going to want to get your steps in, get moving, right? Yes, get less sedentary before you start throwing in all of the, I'm going to work out. I'm going to lift weights 6 days a week. I'm going to do a
mm.
10-week boot camp, right? Okay, great.
Right.
But
Yeah.
is that sustainable? Go ask the biggest loser people, right? Who had their lives ruined by that. It's
Mm,
not sustainable, right? So yes, we want to start building muscle, but in the beginning, that movement, just get moving. However, you can do a 15-minute walk after your 2 meals. Do a
mm.
30-minute walk in the morning. Do a walk after dinner if you're doing dinner OMAD at night. Instead of going to the taco truck at lunch, go for a 30-minute walk. Get your steps in and get moving, and it's going to be so beneficial to the long term.
Yeah, absolutely is. And if that's a new habit for you, write it down so you can remind yourself, hey, this is what I did
Yes.
today. That
I
was a
bought a
good
$10
thing.
pedometer on
Yeah.
Amazon, and it was so annoying because it like clipped in my pocket and I kept catching it on everything, but it reminded
Yeah.
me all the time. As long as I put it on, it was like, oh yeah, there it is. I got to get
Mm,
my walk in.
nice. So like put it with your wallet, put it with your keys. So you just grab it, in
Yep.
the morning, and yeah, there you
And
go.
no
You have it.
excuse if you have an Apple Watch or a Garmin or any one of those. I
Right.
have a
Yeah.
Whoop
Yeah.
and it doesn't track steps. Thank God.
Yeah.
Right. So it's
Yeah.
not,
'Cause you're getting data. You're getting the data.
yeah.
So like shine a light on it
Yep.
and highlight the fact that, yeah, I did get a good amount of steps in, and that is good physiologically. And I don't have to be so concerned with how many hours did I spend at CrossFit this week,
Right.
like,
Right.
yeah, it's not to say that that's a bad thing, but that doesn't have to be where you're aiming. to go, yeah, I really want to optimize the fat loss process right now.
So the mindset component of this is give yourself some grace in the process and know like your story and what you tell yourself on a daily basis matters. If you say this next 24-hour fast is going to be hard, guess what? It is. If you say going to the party or the celebration is going to be hard, guess what? It is. Yep. So just know that the mental game is also part of this process as well, which leads us to the second to last one here, which is for me, if I get bad sleep, man, all the gloves are off the next day. Hunger, cravings, energy, mood.
I'm not as all.
Not as great of a dad, not as great as a faster, not as great of a husband, not as great as a businessman, not as great as a partner, not as good. Sleep is so incredibly important. Prioritize it. We have a sleep guide. You can go to the show notes. It's 6 simple things you can do to start putting into your day-to-day where your sleep, consistent fasting also improves your sleep. But really, sleep is so incredibly important for your circadian rhythm, for your stress response, and how you can optimize your fasting efforts. And Tommy, this last one, we want to stick to the plan and embrace the long game, right? So we need to start thinking, instead of the diet, on-off mentality is this is a fasting lifestyle and not the next 12-week or 90-day boot camp weight loss challenge or fitness transformation process.
Yeah,
it is a reset. Thank you. This is a lifestyle and we're in it for the long game, right?
Yeah, because when we started this conversation, we were talking about 10% of your weight. But if you have 20% or 30% that you want to actually take off, burn through those old fat stores, well, it's going to take some time. But then ultimately, there's going to be a transition. There's going to be a switch from, yes, I want to burn through some old fat, to now I want to maintain those results and I don't want to regain on the scale, and I want to maintain the progress that I've made. It's been incredibly important. Why would I want to give that back? Why would I want to do any of these things again another time, right? Even if you've done it 20 times, 50 times in the past. And so when we're thinking about that, we want to be thinking, hey, you know what? These fasting tools are not just to lose weight right now. They're not just to burn through old fat stores. I'm going to be using these tools in a different way much later on to sustain those results too. And so when you're kind of coming to it with that in mind, and you kind of plant that seed early, it makes it a lot easier to not feel like, oh, it's just another diet. And then there's this on-off mentality. And, and that kind of goes along with a lot of these other points that we've been talking about today, which is an overriding theme is don't just change everything all at once, especially not to like make this idealized perfect program that your whole life just got flipped upside down, right? Like kind of all at once, which can happen with New Year's resolutions and other things like that. So more like making digestible changes, and even if some of them are relatively big changes, put a little bit of time in between each one, like grab one and then do another one, right? And start stacking them on top of each other. And then you'll find it easier to kind of make them stick for the long term.
100%. 21 days to make a habit is bad marketing. Okay. It takes time to overhaul your lifestyle. Fasting is an absolute game changer. It simplifies the process. It balances hormones and it empowers you to know that, yes, you can finally do it once and for all. So, Tommy, as you wrap up today, head to the show notes. You can click the blueprint to fasting for fat loss. We give you different schedules, the who, what, when, where, and why of how to adopt a fasting lifestyle. Yeah. You can grab the sleep guide. You can head to the Facebook group, the Fasting for Life community. Engage, take an action now, take one of or two of the things that we talked about today and start the process. Simply every single day, 1% better, one thing better, one step, one action, and that is where the momentum truly starts. So, Tommy, as we wrap up today, fasting. Set those timers, set your intention. I appreciate the conversation, sir, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Bye. So, you've heard today's episode, and you may be wondering, where do I start? Head on over to thefastingforlife.com and sign up for our newsletter, where you'll receive fasting tips and strategies to maximize results and fit fasting into your day-to-day life.
While you're there, download your free Fast Start guide to get started today. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and we'll be back next week with another episode of Fasting for Life.